May 29, 1453. The last Roman emperor strips off his imperial regalia. The purple robes, the golden crown, the symbols of 15 centuries of Roman power. He hands them to his guards. Then he picks up a sword and walks into the breach in the walls. He's going to die as a soldier, not an emperor. By sunset, the Roman Empire, which has existed for 1,480 years, will be gone forever. Let me put that in perspective for you. The United States has existed for 248 years. The Roman Empire lasted 6 times longer than that. It survived the fall of the Western Empire in 476 AD. It kept going as the Byzantine Empire for another 1,000 years. And on this day in this city, it all ends. This isn't just a battle. This is the end of an era. The end of classical civilization. The last connection to ancient Rome. Severed in blood and fire. Constantinople. The greatest city in the Christian world. Protected by walls so massive, so impregnable, they've stood for over 1,000 years. Walls that have turned back Persians, Arabs, Bulgars, and Vikings. Walls that everyone said could never fall. On April 6, 1453, an Ottoman army of 80,000 to 200,000 men surrounds the city. Leading them? A 21-year-old sultan named Mehmed II Mehmet. History will call him Mehmed the Conqueror. But right now, defending Constantinople are 7,000 men. Just 7,000. Against an army 20 times larger. The math is insane. The odds are impossible. And yet, these walls have held before. Haven't they? Rewind 2 years. Mehmed II becomes sultan at age 19. He's young, brilliant, and obsessed with one thing, taking Constantinople. His father tried. His grandfather tried. Every Ottoman sultan for 50 years has dreamed of conquering this city. Mehmed isn't going to dream. He's going to do it. He starts preparing immediately. Building a fortress on the Bosphorus to cut off the city's supply lines. Hiring engineers. Commissioning weapons. And not just any weapons. He's building the largest cannons the world has ever seen. There's one cannon so massive it takes 60 oxen to pull. It weighs 19 tons. It fires stone balls that weigh 1,500 pounds. When it fires, the sound can be heard 10 miles away. The cannonballs can punch through castle walls like they're made of paper. The problem? It takes 3 hours to reload. And it's so powerful that every time it fires, cracks appear in the bronze barrel. The engineer who designed it warns Mehmed it might explode at any moment. Mehmed doesn't care. He's going to use it to do something no one has done in 1,000 years. Breach the Theodosian walls. Let's talk about these walls. Because they're the reason Constantinople has survived for so long. The Theodosian walls were built in the 5th century. They're actually 3 walls, one inside the other. The outer wall is 20 feet tall. Behind that, the main wall is 40 feet tall and 15 feet thick. Behind that, an inner wall even taller. Between the walls are ditches and killing zones. Any army trying to attack has to cross an open field under arrow fire, climb the first wall, fight in a narrow space between walls, then climb the second wall, then the third. No one has breached these walls by force. Ever. Not in 1,000 years. Mehmed looks at these walls and thinks, I have cannons. Inside the city, Emperor Constantine XI, Constantine, knows what's coming. He's 48 years old. He's been emperor for 4 years. And he knows this might be the end. Constantinople used to rule an empire that stretched from Spain to Syria. Now it controls just the city. Everything else has been conquered by the Ottomans over the past century. The empire has shrunk to just these walls. Constantine sends desperate messages to Western Europe. Send help. Send soldiers. Send ships. The Ottomans are coming. Most of Europe ignores him. The Pope wants the Orthodox Church to submit to Rome first. Venice is busy with trade. Genoa sends a few ships, but not many. A Genoese soldier named Giovanni Giustiniani, arrives with 700 men. He's one of the best military commanders in Europe. Constantine immediately puts him in charge of defending the walls. 7,000 defenders. Most of them civilians. Against one of the largest armies in the world. If you're enjoying this story of impossible odds and a civilization's last stand, hit subscribe. This is Untold Battlefield, the only channel where history bleeds truth. We cover the battles that changed history, the warriors who refused to surrender, and the moments that shaped our world. Subscribe and let me know in the comments what battle you want to see next. April 6, 1453. The Ottoman army arrives. And it's not just an army. It's a city of tents. 80,000 to 200,000 men. Historians still debate the exact number. But everyone agrees on one thing: it's overwhelming. Mehmed sets up his command tent in front of the walls. He's close enough that defenders can see him. That's the point. He wants them to see the size of his army. He wants them to despair. Then the cannons start firing. The sound is like continuous thunder. The massive cannons fire stone balls that slam into the walls. Chunks of masonry explode. Dust clouds fill the air. The ground shakes with each impact. The defenders watch in horror. These walls have stood for 1,000 years. And now they're cracking. But here's the thing about medieval walls. They're thick. Really thick. A cannonball makes a crater, sure, but the wall doesn't collapse. Not immediately. Every night, the defenders work desperately to repair the damage. They pile rubble. They shore up weak points. They rebuild what the cannons destroyed during the day. It becomes a race. Can the Ottomans break through before the defenders patch the holes? Mehmed has another problem. Constantinople is protected by water on 3 sides. The Golden Horn, a deep water inlet, protects the northern wall. And the Byzantines have stretched a massive chain across the entrance to the Golden Horn. Ships can't get in. This is brilliant defensive design. The northern wall is the weakest. But the Ottomans can't attack it because their ships can't reach it. Mehmed's solution is insane. If he can't sail into the Golden Horn, he'll go overland. He builds a greased wooden road over the hills behind the city. Then he has his sailors drag 70 ships, 70 actual ships overland, over the hills, and down into the Golden Horn behind the chain. The Byzantines wake up one morning and see Ottoman ships in the Golden Horn. Ships that shouldn't be there. Ships that appeared by magic. The sailors had to pull these ships uphill using ropes and oxen. It took all night. But now Mehmed can attack the northern wall. The defenders are stunned. How do you fight someone who drags ships over mountains? The siege drags on for weeks. Every day, the cannons fire. Every night, the defenders repair. Men die on both sides. The Ottomans try assault after assault. They're always pushed back. The Byzantines use Greek fire, a Byzantine secret weapon. It's a liquid that burns on water. They pump it through bronze tubes mounted on the walls. Ottoman soldiers charging the walls suddenly find themselves covered in fire that water can't put out. It's terrifying. It's effective. But there are only so many defenders. Only so much Greek fire. And Mehmed has an entire empire worth of soldiers. Every time the Byzantines kill 1,000 Ottomans, 2,000 more arrive. The defenders? Every man who dies is irreplaceable. May 26th. 50 days into the siege. The Ottomans have tried everything. Cannons. Direct assaults. Naval attacks. Mining under the walls, which the Byzantines counter by digging their own tunnels and collapsing the Ottoman mines. Nothing works. The walls still stand. The defenders still fight. Mehmed's advisors are getting nervous. They're running out of supplies. The soldiers are exhausted. Maybe they should retreat. Maybe Constantinople is impossible after all. Mehmed makes a decision. One more assault. One final, massive attack using everything at once. If it fails, they retreat. He chooses May 29th. The date is not random. It's been calculated by his astrologers as favorable. He orders every unit to prepare. This is it. All or nothing. Inside the city, Constantine knows what's coming. He gives a speech to his defenders. He doesn't promise victory. He promises that they'll die with honor, that they're the last defenders of Rome. That history will remember them. Then he walks the walls one last time, shaking hands with soldiers, thanking them. Some are crying. Everyone knows this is probably the end. That night, the city holds one final religious service in the Hagia Sophia, the greatest church in Christendom. Catholics, Orthodox, everyone prays together. Old religious feuds forgotten. They're all Romans tonight. May 29th. Just after midnight. The Ottoman army attacks. Not one wave. Waves. Continuous waves. The irregulars attack first, expendable troops meant to exhaust the defenders. They charge the walls with ladders. Most die, but they keep coming. For 2 hours, this continues. The defenders are firing arrows, dropping rocks, pouring boiling oil. Their arms are getting tired. Their ammunition is running low. Then Mehmed sends in his regular infantry. Fresh troops. Better equipped. They attack different sections of the walls simultaneously. The defenders are spread thin, running from crisis point to crisis point. One section of wall has been particularly damaged by cannon fire, near the Blockayarnay Palace. The Ottomans focus their assault there. They're pushing through. The defenders are being overwhelmed. Giovanni Giustiniani is commanding that section. He's fighting like a madman, inspiring his troops, pushing the Ottomans back repeatedly. Then a bullet from a primitive gun hits him in the chest. It punches through his armor. He's badly wounded. His men carry him off the walls to get medical treatment. Maybe he survives. Maybe not. But either way, he's out of the fight. The soldiers see their commander carried away. Their morale breaks. Some start to retreat. Constantine races to that section. He's trying to rally them, trying to hold the line. But it's too late. The Ottomans have found a small gate, the Kirkoporta, that someone forgot to lock. 50 Ottoman soldiers get through. Just 50. But that's enough. Once the Ottomans are inside the walls, everything collapses. Defenders start fleeing. Some try to escape to ships in the harbor. Others barricade themselves in buildings. Constantine sees it's over. This is the moment he strips off his imperial regalia. He's not going to die wearing purple robes. He's going to die as a soldier. He charges into the breach with his sword. Fighting. Killing. Until someone kills him. His body is never identified with certainty. The last Roman emperor dies in anonymous combat, indistinguishable from his soldiers. The Ottomans pour into the city. Mehmed has promised his soldiers 3 days of looting, standard practice after taking a city by storm. What happens next is brutal. Thousands of civilians are killed. Thousands more are enslaved. Churches are looted. Homes are ransacked. The streets run with chaos and violence. This is the ancient custom of war. If a city resists and falls, the victors get to plunder it. By the third day, Mehmed orders his soldiers to stop. He rides into the city on a white horse. He goes directly to the Hagia Sophia, the greatest church in the Christian world, built by Justinian nearly 1,000 years ago. Mehmed looks at the church. Then he declares it will become a mosque. Workers immediately start covering Christian mosaics with plaster, installing prayer niches pointing to Mecca. The transformation is symbolic and complete. Constantinople is now Istanbul. The Byzantine Empire is now Ottoman territory. The last remnant of Rome is gone. Let's talk about what just ended. The Roman Empire began, depending on how you count, either in 753 BC with the founding of Rome, or 27 BC when Augustus became emperor. If we use the earlier date, that's 2,206 years. If we use the later date, it's still 1,480 years. Either way, that's one of the longest-running civilizations in human history. And it ended here, on May 29, 1453, because a 21-year-old sultan wanted glory, because he had cannons, because he was willing to drag ships over mountains. The fall of Constantinople sent shockwaves across Europe. Refugees fled west, bringing with them Greek manuscripts, knowledge, art. Many historians argue this influx of Byzantine scholars helped trigger the Renaissance. The Ottomans controlled trade routes to Asia. Europeans had to find new paths. This led directly to the Age of Exploration. Columbus sailing west. Vasco da Gama sailing around Africa. The discovery of the Americas. All because Constantinople fell. Mehmed II became Mehmed the Conqueror. He ruled for another 28 years, conquering more territory. He rebuilt Constantinople, now Istanbul, into a magnificent Ottoman capital. He was 21 when he took the city. History remembers him as one of the greatest sultans. Constantine XI became Constantine the Last. The Romans had started with Romulus. They ended with Constantine. His death in the breach became legendary, the emperor who refused to flee, who died defending his city. The Orthodox Church considers him a saint. The Theodosian walls still stand in Istanbul today. You can walk along them. See the sections damaged by Mehmed's cannons. Stand where Constantine made his last stand. The Hagia Sophia, turned into a mosque in 1453, then a museum in 1935, then back to a mosque in 2020, still dominates Istanbul's skyline. The building that was once the greatest church in Christendom for 9 centuries. Let's talk about the cannons, because that's what really changed warfare forever. Medieval castles and walls were designed to resist scaling ladders, battering rams, and siege towers. They were not designed to resist gunpowder artillery. Constantinople's walls were the greatest defensive fortifications in the world, and they fell to technology. After Constantinople, every military power in Europe realized they needed cannons. Castle design changed completely, walls got lower and thicker. The medieval period was effectively over. The age of gunpowder had begun. The cannon that Mehmed used, the giant one that took 60 oxen to move, only lasted a few weeks before it cracked irreparably and couldn't be used anymore. But it had done its job. It had proven that walls could fall. Here's something interesting. Mehmed offered generous terms before the siege. Surrender peacefully, and Constantinople would become an Ottoman city with Christians allowed to practice their religion freely. Constantine refused. He chose to fight. Some historians argue this was pride. Others say it was principle. He was Roman emperor. He couldn't surrender Rome's last city. Either way, the decision cost 50,000 lives. Maybe more. The 3 days of looting were brutal. If Constantine had surrendered, those lives would have been spared. But then again, would the Byzantine Empire have ended with dignity? Or would it have slowly faded away as an Ottoman vassal state? Sometimes refusing to surrender is about legacy, about making the world remember. Constantine made sure the world would remember. The siege lasted 53 days. The Ottomans fired their cannons continuously for almost 2 months. The defenders repaired the walls every night for almost 2 months. That's insane dedication on both sides. This wasn't a quick battle. This was a marathon of attrition, of willpower, of who wanted it more. Mehmed wanted it more. He had more men, more supplies, more time. The defenders fought brilliantly, but math eventually wins. Let's address the numbers. Ancient sources sometimes claim Mehmed had 400,000 men. Modern historians say probably 80,000 to 120,000 combat troops, plus support personnel. Even the lower number is overwhelming. 7,000 defenders holding off 80,000 attackers for 53 days is remarkable. That's better than 10 to 1 odds. In siege warfare, defenders usually have the advantage because of walls and fortifications, but not when the attackers have cannons. About 4,000 defenders died, including Emperor Constantine XI. About 50,000 to 70,000 civilians were enslaved and sold. The Ottoman losses are unknown, but probably at least 10,000 to 20,000. Those numbers matter. Real people, real families destroyed, real lives ended. This wasn't just strategy and tactics. This was human tragedy on a massive scale. There's a legend that says when the Ottomans broke into the Hagia Sophia, a priest was conducting mass. At the moment of the breach, he supposedly took the communion chalice and walked into the wall, which opened and swallowed him. The legend says he'll emerge when Constantinople becomes Christian again, and finish the mass. It's not true, obviously, but it shows how traumatic the fall was for the Christian world. They needed to believe something of the old world survived. That maybe someday it could return. It never did. Constantinople is Istanbul now. The Byzantine Empire is gone. That world ended in 1453. Military historians still study the siege, the use of artillery, the defensive repairs, the multiple attack vectors. How do you defend against overwhelming force with superior technology? The answer: you delay. You make them pay for every inch. You inspire your soldiers to hold against impossible odds. The Byzantines couldn't win, but they made Mehmed earn his victory. The fall of Constantinople marks the traditional end of the Middle Ages. After this, historians say we enter the Renaissance and early modern period. Why does one city falling mark such a huge transition? Because Constantinople was the link to the classical world. It preserved Greek and Roman knowledge through the medieval period. When it fell, that knowledge spread west. Combined with the printing press, invented around the same time, this led to an explosion of learning. One siege ended an empire and helped birth the Renaissance. That's the power of a single historical moment. Mehmed was 21 years old. Constantine was 48. Both knew this siege would define their legacies. For Mehmed, it was the beginning of greatness. He just achieved what sultans had dreamed of for generations. For Constantine, it was the end. But what an end! Refusing to flee, stripping off imperial regalia, dying with a sword in his hand, defending his city. Both men got their legacy. History remembers them both. Here's the question: was this preventable? If Western Europe had sent serious help, could Constantinople have held? Maybe. If the walls hadn't been damaged by centuries of neglect and earthquakes, could they have resisted the cannons? Maybe. But probably not. The Byzantine Empire had been dying for 2 centuries. This was the final chapter of a long decline. Mehmed didn't kill a healthy empire. He ended one that was already on life support. Still, 53 days. 7,000 defenders. They made it a fight. They made the Ottomans bleed. They made sure the last day of Rome was memorable. The Ottoman Empire would last another 465 years. It became one of the most powerful empires in world history, controlling trade routes from Europe to Asia, threatening Vienna, ruling from Budapest to Mecca. And it started here, with a 21-year-old sultan and cannons that could break 1,000-year-old walls. Constantinople didn't just fall. It was blasted into a new era. Today, you can visit Istanbul, walk along the Theodosian walls, see the spot where Constantine made his last stand, visit the Hagia Sophia, now a mosque again, and marvel at the Byzantine mosaics they never quite managed to cover. The city is magnificent, one of the great cities of the world, a bridge between Europe and Asia, between Christian and Muslim history, between ancient and modern. But on May 29th every year, Greek Orthodox Christians around the world remember. They ring bells in mourning. They remember Constantine 11. They remember the last day of Rome. History has a long memory. This is what the end of an empire looks like. Not with a whimper. With cannons. With a final desperate stand. With an emperor dying in the breach. With walls that stood for 1,000 years finally falling. The Roman Empire, in one form or another, lasted longer than any empire in history. It survived civil wars, barbarian invasions, religious schisms, plagues, and countless enemies. But it couldn't survive gunpowder. May 29th, 1453. The last Roman emperor dies defending his city. The walls fall. The empire ends. And the world changes forever.